Hello and welcome to my new video on localized adjustments with black and white images. Most of these techniques which I'm going to do on here can be transferred into color images, and I will do a video in the future about color images. But this one is really just looking at black and white images. In the darkroom, when you would go in and you would get your negative and you put it in the enlarger and you would expose the paper to get a basic exposure. And what this is looking for is just where everything is exposed well. And then you would go back and you would do localized adjustments. You would sort of look at your image and go, well, this part could be lighter, this part could be darker. I really want to put a bit more contrast into the image. And that's when you would start working on that. And so this video is really looking at these sort of localized adjustments. Now the two which you would normally do was dodging and burning. Dodging actually darkened an area of an image, and burning lightened an area of the image. And the way you do this in the darkroom was you would wave your hand, or you would have a different tool. You'd make your own dodging and burning tools. You'd wave over the image to sort of, give the area more light or less light. And it was quite an artistic thing which you'd use your hands, and it could look quite funny as well at times. In Photoshop you do it a little bit differently, and there's many different ways that you can do it. So I'm just going to go and click in, and this is the first way which I do it. And what I do is I create a new layer. I use that here on the bottom, or you can just go layer, new layer, and then I go edit and fill, and you get choice of how you're going to fill it with the hues. And I use 50% gray, and I put the blending to overlay. And I click OK. There it is. Like this. Okay, and what I would do is actually I duplicate the layer because you need it twice. I name one dodge. And I'll name one burn. Now for dodging and burning, you actually need to use the black and white color and a brush. Now what I would always use is I usually try and use like a brush which is very soft. So a very soft brush. Okay, so 0% on there. Okay, and I will change the size of the brush depending on the area which I'm using. And I always set the opacity quite low. And this is just to work and slowly build up what I'm doing in the image. I have a tablet with a pen, so I can do this quite easily. Other people use a mouse, which is perfectly fine. What I first look at is what areas do I initially just want to have a general look at, like brightening or darkening. And in this image, I actually want to work on the center, just here. And I want to make it lighter. So this means I'm burning. And so here we are. And what I'm going to do is, because it's mainly the central part of the image here, I'm just going to lighten a little bit. And you can see that 3 little touches has really just lightened that part of the image there. So I take that back down again. And I actually quite like this lightening part here and here. I'm going to pretty darken this part just on the rim here, but then lighten in here. And this is just to give it a little bit of movement for the eye to look around. Also, these little frescoes here, I think would be quite nice to be lightened as well. So you just have a quick, and you can just tap in. If you don't like it, just go back, but don't do too much and then try to go back. It's quite a strange thing. But you can, after a while, you can actually go back too far. There we are. There. Now, one thing is, you can save your progress as you go along, and then just go back to the last save point. Working on this adjustment layer directly, it means that you can't really go back that easily. I suppose you could try and use, because I'm using white, you could use the black to try and take it off, but it is quite hard. If I come to a point where I'm sort of like, I like it, but I want to do a bit more, but I'm not sure how it'll look, what I'd probably do is just make a new layer. Just go new, and go through this process again. And just have like a build up of layers so you can sort of work with them. This is the way you work with layers, really, and I think it's quite a good way. So still, just do exactly the same again. Overlay. Always name. Let's do burn 2. So I sort of want to burn this in here. But not too much. I can't have it like literally symmetrical, but it'll look quite nice. Just to have a bit of detail in this frescoes here. Now, one thing I do want to do is work on the dodge. I just switch this over back to black. I use the X key, darken that window in a bit. What I will do for the minute is I'm going to select my brush tab. This is really me. That's the way I work. I prefer working on a full screen. Bring that in. Okay, that's probably enough tab to work on that. Okay. So the other area that I wanted to do is just this bit in here. And you really see that I'm only making very slight adjustments in. And the brush is quite big, the area. But it's just general. It's a general adjustment like this. Okay. Now what I've noticed is I really need to probably lighten a bit more in here. So I'm gonna take that layer, X, this. Now why am I going back onto this layer? This is because this layer has already done this central piece. So I'm quite happy with that, but I just want to take a bit more in, and I try and work in similar areas on similar layers. It's white now. Just checking. Put it back. Okay. I'm gonna make another burn layer. And what I'm using this for, this is just going to be for this bit of plastering here, just to lighten it up a little bit. And it's quite nice just looking at it. Just I get quite carried away in my head because I'm like, oh wow, I'm getting something out of it. And really this is therapeutic for me. I could spend all day just editing away. And this is why I sometimes spend a lot of time editing, and then I look at my clock and go, oh my goodness, I wanted to go out and take photos. So I sort of have to sometimes have an alarm clock just to remind me, just get out of the... So you can really see where it's actually having its effect. on the image. And it's quite good because I really sort of force the reason I do this like this is I want to force the viewer's eye. And carrying this light then dark then light then dark sort of makes like a tunnel where the eye is sort of drawn down. I sort of take advantage of what is already there, really. I don't try. If it's a lighter tone part of the image, I will use it. Really. Sorry, let's stop that. Okay. Okay, let's have a quick look. Overall. And really one thing that I also usually do is I usually group this in so you can then sort of appreciate how much that actually changed. And really if you look at the histogram, it's actually brought back a lot of tones which are missing. These gaps in this histogram here, these little lines, which made it look like a zebra, just tell you there's information missing. But whereas when you work on the image and you actually pull things in and you fill in the tones, you actually make the image far more complete than it was before, and it has far much more information. So I just do this. Okay, so this is here. This is quite a good idea if you've got just a small area that is probably blown out. The sun's come through and it's just given like a highlighted area. You can just slowly, gently work it back in. Zoom out, look at it. It's pretty good. The problem is though, if you play around with it too much, like I've just done it here, is that I think it's fine where it was, but it's not so. If I back and go, I can go back to there. Yeah, so it's really more working on the bottom than working here, because if you look at other parts of the images, it's got it on there, so that's fine. So what I'll do, see, that's a good idea, you know, to duplicate, to make a new layer. Because I made a mistake, just go back, it'll take a couple of seconds, and you're back in there again. And this time I'm just going to brush, just work more on the bottom. There you go, that looks a lot better than what I had it before. So that's this sort of basic using this sort of dodge and burn technique. I would probably carry on for quite a while using this. Maybe just bring in some overly highlighted area, things which I think are like overly highlighted, just in here maybe. Because I'm using a low opacity and quite a wide brush, it means you can play around a bit. Okay. Now the other thing you can do is like a local adjustment using one of the adjustment layers. So I'm just going to rename this group which I've made into dodge and burn, so I know it's in the future. Then it's going to go new layer, curves. And what I'm doing is just looking for introducing the new areas of like contrast, because previously it was quite flat, so I'm just trying to force some contrast into some areas. So once again, I do it in the exact same way. Do an adjustment layer, click on the mask there, Control I inverts it. I now have my brush. I find it easier to paint things on than to paint things out. And this time, very gradual change. And by that one, decent size. And that's really it. That's just that shift in there. And really, this is just a small, like, delicate changes that you want to make. So really, I want. So now I'm sort of trying to look at the corners, these sort of corner pieces, you know, I can make it work. I don't want to. Don't want to be too drastic. Just look at the difference there, just bringing in that highlight, just pushing it up in tones. It's fantastic. The only thing you have to sort of be careful now is zoom in at 100% at print size. I know there's quite a bit of noise in the image, but really you start to get this sort of very noisy bit here. Just something just to keep a print size. Actually not too bad. Actual pixels, this is where I normally go. It's like 100%. Yeah, it's not too great, but it's just something I'd have to work on my next step. Fit on screen. So there we go. So that was actually quite a fantastic image. I've really pulled that back out. I've got to sort of work at clipping this. Likes to have. I think that's really in these frescoes what I clipped it. And this one looks a lot more detailed, so I'm actually going to probably go back and work on that a little bit more. But that's really the end of using sort of localized adjustments to control your image. It's, as I said, it's a great, and it's a really fantastic way of working on your image and having some sort of control on it. And if I just sort of group everything as an adjustment, and just for you to see what everything sort of looks like without it, just to see like a before and after. So this was the image before. It was quite flat, really, and this is the image afterwards. And you really just punched it with some little bit of dodging or burning, and your eye really draws down into the center of that now. So I think it looks quite good. I'll finish editing it and I'll post it on the blog underneath the video. I hope you had a great time with these sort of black and white videos. I'm going to do a new video series afterwards. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet. I'm still thinking about it. But I hope that you've enjoyed it. And thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.